what's up, hello, my name is Emma, and today I'm going to be talking about episode 7 of Shadowhunters Season 2. I really enjoyed this episode. A lot of the recent ones have been fantastic. Episode 4, 5, 6, 7, all so good. I think the shining point of this episode was the dialogue. Oh my goodness, so many funny lines. I am crazy excited to share them with you guys, but I thought they had the characters on point, the dialogue was super funny, there were a lot of subtle funny moments, which I always love. Dialogue was really great in my opinion. We had a lot of great scenes, of course, few little things that I'm not a total fan of, but overall, I thought this episode was really great. That is it for the non-spoiler section. Make sure you head on over to freeform.com, watch episode 7 of Shadowhunters, and then come back and we can discuss it. But bye non-spoiler people. First thing I want to get out of the way is I was not a fan of this whole Cleophas and Valentine plotline. There was just something about it that wasn't that appealing to me. I mean, when she shows up and they have this conversation about her coming back after all this time and then she cuts herself to pretend like Valentine hurt her, it just wasn't interesting to me. I felt the episode had a lot of other stronger points. I know I'm starting off with 2 of the 3 bad things about this episode, but for the most part, everything else is good, I swear. The other thing I didn't like right off the bat was this whole plotline with Ithuriel. Throughout the whole episode, he just looks like a normal man. He looks like a mundane, and I understand they're like, he's not in his final form, but even at the end of his episode, the final form was just the same guy with really bad CGI wings. I feel like I said this about something a couple of reviews ago, but I can't remember exactly what. It just feels like such a cop-out to be like, this is an angel, and it just looks like a regular person. Other than his appearance, I was also underwhelmed with the way he was communicating with Clary. Actually, that's wrong because Cleophas puts on a hearing rune later in the episode and she can hear it, which implies that any Shadowhunter who has an active hearing rune could hear the cries of this angel, and it just took away a lot of the authenticity that Clary had this relationship with Ithuriel. I thought the better way to go about this would have had in all of the episodes previously in season 2 if we had Clary having these angelic dreams that she has in the book that are sent to her through Ithuriel, and it kind of led up to Ithuriel being captive by Valentine and trying to reach out to Clary. I thought that would have been a fantastic way to introduce this plotline, but it really just fell flat for me. We're gonna get back to Ithuriel at the end of the review, but I do want to talk about some of the really good things. I really loved the moment in the beginning between Simon and Clary. Like, Clary walks in, Simon's shirtless, and she's all swoony. She seemed a little jealous of Simon and Maya going out, which I really liked. I really liked the line when Simon is like, "Is that okay?" And Clary's like, "No, that's unacceptable. I'm your only friend." Felt so true to their relationship and something I could totally see Clary saying in the books. I feel like Shadowhunters is kind of building up to Simon and Clary having a relationship very soon, because in the episode 8 promo, we have Simon who seems like he's getting ready to tell Clary. He talks about it with Simon in this episode. And we have Clary who is starting to see Simon in a different light. I really like the way it's going. Another really great scene was Malik in the beginning. They start by them walking in from like Japan or Korea or something. I love how they're in the middle of this conversation and Alec is like, "Well, yeah, how would you feel being called fatty tuna?" Here is the moment in every episode where I just have a second of appreciation for Matthew Daddario. He also buys Magnus a gift and it was really cute and Magnus really loves it and just all the feels. We have this really random moment between Jace and Kaylee. I get they're trying to push this whole Jace as a womanizer thing, but it just, oh, it was so bad in my opinion. I also totally agree with all of the show fans who are like, you give me this random ass hookup for 3 minutes that I don't care about, but Malik gets caught off at the end. I see what Shadowhunters is doing, putting Malik in all those promos. Another great scene is when Izzy confronts Clary about her having this new rune power and not telling her. I really liked it because it showed how much the Yin Fen is really changing her. I mean, she's angry, she's confrontational, she feels betrayed. Another really funny line, she's listing all these things that she's done for Clary and just like in one breath all throughout, totally subtle, she's just like, "And rescued Simon every time he got into trouble," which is basically all the time. So fucking funny. And then we have the scene after where she's sneaking into Aldertree's office trying to steal the Yin Fen and gets caught, and you just see her take a step back and breathe and she's like, "What have I gotten myself into?" I obviously don't want to see Izzy in pain, but I feel the betrayal of her addiction is going so well, and for like entertainment plot progressing purposes, it's absolutely fantastic. More Izzy, we get into the Hunter's Moon where Simon is 2 hours early for his date with Maya and they're having this little catch up and it started out as a really nice conversation. You know, we have the banter, Simon's like, "Things are good, haven't been kidnapped in a while." But it got a little weird when Izzy was like, "You know what helps with anxiety? Shadowhunter blood, one bite and pop, all the anxieties away. It was very weird, but I like how it plays into the idea I had last week about how they changed Yin-Fen to be vampire venom and it would have something to do with Simon. So like, that was a nice surprise and I'm glad they followed through with my expectation of that. Another thing I didn't like, I actually touched upon this last week and it followed into this week, which I'm disappointed with, but it's the fact that Cleophas was a known Circle member and is still, or was still, an Iron Sister. Clary's talking about how Cleophas must have been taken with Valentine, and Luke is just like, no, she was in the Circle, she's probably working with him, like totally nonchalant. So this means she was a known Circle member, which creates a ton of problems because the people in the Circle, they sold everyone out. Every single person got punished in some way. And again, you have an Iron Sister who is at like the top of the food chain for Shadowhunters, right up there with the Cleave, and she is allowed to continue this position of power despite being on the opposing side. What would have totally fixed this and completely satisfied me is if Luke didn't know. If she was a Circle member in secret, would have been so much better and not created any problems, and I would have been much, much happier with it. Also, having Luke find out for the first time that his sister is on Valentine's side would have made a great addition to the episode. Also, Magnus talking to Izzy about Yin-Fen and about how it almost cost his friend Jem his life. Oh my god. Oh, it was so good. Another absolutely great scene was Jace and Simon in the Hunter's Moon. Jace was so Jace in that scene. That is exactly how I want to see Jace all the time. There were just so many great things. He was so sarcastic, so witty, and the Simon and Jace banner was freaking authentic as hell. I loved it. Then Maya gets involved and she's like, you really do have a death wish. I think I laughed the hardest in this episode when Maya handed Jace his tequila shots. He goes, thank you, and she goes, I spit in one. Another great part when Jace is trying to be Simon's Obi-Wan and he's like, show me how you pick up girls. Lewis. Simon Lewis. Finger guns and all. And Jace just totally brushes it off. And so Simon tries something new and he's like, and Jace is like, what are you doing? And Simon's like, being you. Dark and mysterious. And Jace is like, you look like you haven't had enough fiber. It was so great. Unfortunately, they had to ruin it with the shape-shifting rune. Why do they have to use it always so unnecessarily? They barely use any other runes in the show and they throw on the shape-shifting rune like they can't get enough of it. It's careless, it's stupid, it creates so many plot holes, and even if you love the show, you should be able to recognize that this was a really, really bad decision in production. Something I also really liked is how Clary knows that Cleophas is on Valentine's side when she calls her Clarissa because only Valentine calls her Clarissa. That was great, and it's just subtleties like this that make me so happy. Another really great line when Clary is like, don't cops go undercover? And Luke's like, I didn't know you had a badge. Oh, the dialogue was so on point. I'm really surprised they shut down Simon and Maya's relationship as quickly as they did, but I'm really glad they did so. Like I said, it seems we're leading into Simon and Clary maybe having something, or at least Simon revealing his feelings for Clary very, very soon, so it makes sense. They just had a really nice conversation. They were talking about nerdy stuff and Maya was offering her own advice to Simon, and it was just all around a great conversation. I'm glad that from here on out they can actually grow as friends instead of have some like weird tension relationship going on. So we get to more Malik, and throughout this whole episode, Alec has been dealing with deciding if he wants to have sex with Magnus or not. So he runs in and kisses Magnus and it's really, really cute. They have this conversation that kind of borders on a little uncomfortable where Alec is like, I want to do this, and Magnus is like, I'm not sure. So we have this conversation and it ends with Alec kissing Magnus into his bedroom, and then the screen cuts. There has been a lot of drama over this scene on Tumblr, on Twitter, just fucking everywhere. There has been a lot of conversation on Magnus's consent in this scene because it is not unclear, and like I said, we have Jace and Kaylee who fuck for the first 5 minutes of the show, and then we don't get to see anything of Malik, which I do believe is a problem. Normally that cut before they enter the bedroom in TV usually does imply that the characters had sex, and because they were kissing going in, it makes me think so, and I hope that's something that's touched in the next episode. And I had a feeling if they did, we weren't gonna see it in this episode, because in the promo we just hear Isabel say 5,000 fucking times, are you talking about having sex? I think everyone should have realized by this point that Shadowhunters promos are the clickbait of cable television. They always include the things that are going to create the most shock factor to get fans excited, and then it never follows through in the way you think it does in the promo. So I kind of knew that we weren't really going to get anything from this episode. I just, for the sake of the fans and the showrunners and everyone, I really hope they address it in the next episode because people are not happy. One really, really great thing that is going to stick with me like all throughout Shadowhunters, and I was so happy with the way they included this. Like I said, we have Jace being a fuckboy for the entire episode with these 3 fairy girls, but as soon as Luke runs in and says Clary is in trouble, Jace gets the fuck up and runs out of there. Really great telling moment of Jace's character. It was executed perfectly. I am so happy with it, and like I said, I'm just gonna carry that with me all throughout the rest of Shadowhunters because I felt it was really, really significant. Now, like I said, I wasn't really crazy about Valentine and Cleophas's plotline throughout this episode, but I did like the conversation between Luke and Valentine at the very end when they're fighting. Valentine is just spouting off some very Valentine lines, like it's not torture, it's a means to an end. He talks about Luke and him being parabatai, how he wishes he had the strength to kill him because he's a monster, how he took Jocelyn away from him and everything, and it was just really executed well. I do have to say, Gunn in a Shadowhunter Downworlder fight really put me off. Final scene of this episode, we have Ithuriel, Clary, Jace on top of the boat. Really was not a fan of this part, specifically because the CGI was horrendous. I say this a lot on Twitter. I don't understand what Shadowhunters is doing with their CGI budget. I want to put this into perspective. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which I'm currently rewatching, which is why it's my example. 2001, they had a $2.1 million per episode budget. Shadowhunters 17 years later has a $3.5 million episode budget. So we have 16 years of development for the special effects industry, which if you didn't realize is growing really, really quickly, and an additional $1,400,000. I just cannot comprehend why Shadowhunter CGI effects look so far behind its time. Someone tagged me in a behind the scenes clip of Ithuriel with his wings. They were black, they were white and weird and had eyes on them and everything, and it looked so much better without the CGI. We have the lightning that is flashing on the boat every 3 seconds, which was really irritating for my eyes to watch. The clouds in the sky looked so fake, and it was like unbearably bad CGI. I really could not stand it. My problem with Shadowhunters right now, because like I said, like all of the problems I had originally are fucking gone and they fixed all of them. My current issue is that I want more CGI. I want it to be impressive. I wanted to showcase that this is a fantasy show, but their CGI fucking sucks and it's disappointing every single time, and I really think that they need to chill out with whatever that $3.5 million is going to and put more of it into the CGI because it would be such an asset to their show. But the last thing I want to say about this final scene is I'm kind of disappointed that Jace couldn't even hear Ithuriel as well. I felt that would have been such a stronger ending if he had communicated with both Clary and Jace. I understand they both see the vision, but I would have liked it if he could also hear him the way that Clary could hear him. Not only do I feel like it would have made their sibling plotline more realistic if they had both interacted with Ithuriel in the same exact way, I also felt it would have been great foreshadowing for their relationship they both have in connection to Ithuriel that I really hope they're still going with, because I don't know what I will do if they cut that out. So I'm at least glad that they did have that vision they both shared that was still terrible CGI and didn't tell anything, like it was the soul sword and some hooded figure, and then they disappeared, and that was it. Again, just skipping over all the important shit, but I just wish they would have been able to do more. So that is really it for my review of episode 7 of Shadowhunters. Like I said, I really, really enjoyed this episode. I felt there were so many strong points, and I'm just really happy with the direction the show is going in. It feels like a more cohesive show. I feel like they're doing better with translating book content and creating new content that is consistent with the show. By my standards, they're doing pretty good at the moment, but I would love to hear your thoughts. That is it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you soon for a new one. Bye!